Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of this third season, The Journey Hub. We have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Cindy. She has an experience of more than 7 years working from Artesia as a stylish to the senior manager now, strategy and planning at Mindshare, with around 4 years of agency background. We welcome you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Appreciate it. So we'll be starting with our questions. So it will be like some of the your journey questions we'll start with. So starting with first questions without wasting any time, if you can elaborate us a bit about your journey from an stylist at Artesia to the senior manager strategy and planning at Mindshare.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I've had like an interesting career. Prior to actually being a stylist at Aritzia, I was actually in a completely different field. I was in sciences. So I think that's really where things started. Coming out of school, I wasn't really clear on like the direction after that. So I thought, what's the easiest way in to the business world but sales? And I have a huge love for Aritzia as well. So I landed there part-time. I worked there full-time for a little bit. And then after that, I think the moment was when Aritzia launched their e-com service. And I thought it was amazing. I started seeing traction in store. And so I think that's where my love for like marketing actually started growing. So I started exploring different options of ways I can get myself into like a marketing firm or like an agency or like a company that had marketing services, which is pretty much everything. But I have no business acumen beyond just working in sales. And so from there, I took a postgraduate, but on the side, I was also sort of doing a lot of self-learning. And I think that actually helped move me forward because I was able to learn in addition to taking school. And so through school, I think the one right move I did was this was only a 1 year postgraduate, but in between there was like a co-op. I did my undergraduate at Waterloo, and co-op is a huge thing there. And I know like the positive benefits of having co-op while you're doing school. And so I did the same thing. I landed at the Canadian Cancer Society, actually in like the Ontario region, supporting special events. And then just through networking and talking to people and sharing my passions, I made my way into like the national team for marketing. And then that's where I was able to sort of learn a lot more about brand and advertising marketing. And then from there, we were working with I don't know if you guys know, MediaCom. So it was our media agency. I thought, wow, these people are really smart, really informed, have a ton of resources, very data driven. That's what I was looking for. And so I was looking for an option like that as well. And luckily, MediaCom is actually part of the Group M family, and Mindshare is also part of the Group M family. So I did a little bit of research, ended up at Mindshare, started off as a manager on Unilever, and then from there on, here we are. There was an opportunity that presented itself, and now I'm a senior manager in planning. So that's kind of where my career trajectory took me. Yeah.
And actually, it sounds like very inspiring journey because we all start from something, and it's great to have a passion, have something that you want to actually get into, and want something that you want to achieve, right? So really inspiring journey that you had. And what were the resources that actually helped you along the way? And maybe would you recommend some resources like for people who want to get into strategy, but they're just starting, like maybe as a students and like recent graduates?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really, I'm going to be really honest. I didn't really have a strategy. My approach to a lot of things is do. so that you can learn, because I learned through experience. And so my best way wasn't like I don't think it was going back to school to learn more. I had already my undergraduate. I did a little postgrad for the reason that I outlined, so that I could also get sort of hands-on experience and then a job. But for me, I did a lot of like I used resources on YouTube. I used resources on blogs. Like I used to listen to a ton of different podcasts, and even through while I was at Mindshare or at my former company before that, I would listen to podcasts. Basically, the way that I approach this is try to get a little bit smarter every single day towards the direction that you want to take it. So if you're interested in strategy, make sure you're reading about what's happening in the world. Make sure you understand like the Canadian landscape. Follow people like our marketing science team. They put out research all the time. Our Mindshare puts out POVs all the time. Follow the people that you respect and see what they're talking about, and then go from there. That's what I would sort of recommend. I don't have like hard and fast resources for you, just because I've used everything under the sun. As long as I'm interested, I will find it. But podcasts are a really great way to start, and this totally makes sense. I think yeah, there's a lot of really great podcasts on Spotify if you want to learn about like business strategy, whatever you want, anything. Yeah.
I think so. Sorry. That's a very interesting point from my point of view. Reason being, people generally think, okay, this is a tool that I have to learn for the strategy. This is the language, or this is the platform where I should go. It's a really very important thing that people should understand right now. That it's all about learning from the real-time experiences, or learning through from the experiences of the people what they're doing. And that's really an awesome point for our audience, particularly coming from Cindy. I really appreciate that particular point. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say with strategy, I think also it just takes time, right? It's also data driven. Sometimes it's a little bit of like the arts and science combined. So think like your consumer, maybe take an insight that you've found somewhere else and pair it together and just think about it. Like take your time to think about it, and that's how you become a strategist. Yeah, by experience, I'd say. Yeah.
So, coming on this from the strategy point of view, I'm pretty sure that since you have been in the strategy for around a period now, so who were the people who were most influential to you while you have been in this media, or let's say from Artesia? So there would have been maybe either from the very teenage to this point of view, would have been some influential people to whom you would have looked up and said, yes, I want to do like this, or they have had that particular impact.
Yeah, so just one point of clarification. I'm strategy and planning. So I'm media planning. Yeah, media planning plus strategy. So I'm not like a strategist. We definitely leverage our resources here at Mindshare. Like we definitely have different teams, the marketing science team, to like actually like solid strategists who spend all day long thinking about things, and then you have like media planners who are kind of in between. So just one point of clarification there. In terms of what you were asking before about who I sort of looked up to and who, lots of people I say. So throughout my career, I always aspired to be, when I looked at that person, okay, I could see myself trying to work towards that. I look for leaders in my space that are not only owning it in terms of like their career and doing really cool things, but impacting like the community as well, or impacting the world in some sort of way outside of like our own career objectives. And then outside of that, also, I follow people quite closely, so especially the ones that I really admire, and I see what else are you doing outside of work? Like, what are your passions? Like, what are you doing to further benefit our community? So I'd say those are usually the type of people. In my childhood, that was probably like my grandmother. um, like my grandfather, my aunt, like just people that I always looked up to. But in my career, there's been so many different individuals. And when I do find them, I definitely stay in touch. Yeah.
And actually, I would agree with you. And honestly, I think LinkedIn opened so many opportunities to us because when I came to Canada, when you look now at your jobs, you don't look at it as a job. You can see who is behind the business. You can see what they're doing, what they love, what they're interested in. So I think it opens so many possibilities for even like for young marketers, like or even
Mhm.
people in the industry right now
Yeah.
to meet the best talent, to attract the best talent, for new grads to get to know people in the industry and understand like what's their job was like, for example, if that's what they want to do. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And honestly, it became so easier just for everyone to get in touch. It's just like just go and do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, just go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, that's what's so great about, I mean, there's a lot of downsides to social media, but that's the
Yeah.
great side about social media. Allows you to like reach out to anybody and learn from anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
And
agree.
so let's move to the next question. So we will get to a completely different topic, I would say. Not completely different, but still not
Sure.
very close. So what is the myth that you would like to debunk about media? Is there something that you think that, yeah, takes as a stereotype maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good question. I actually was like, what myths do I know of media? I have like one that I can think of that I found on the internet because I was like, what is a myth of media? Um, I think the myth that like we do a lot of audience targeting. So that's media. Like, how do we find our consumers? And like, what do they like to do? I think one myth about media is that older people or yeah, older people, let's say my parents' age or over, so 50 or over, don't use the internet very much. Like they don't use Facebook, they don't use TikTok, they don't use Instagram. I'm going to tell you, they definitely do. I definitely think it still skews towards like your millennials and Gen Zs, and like channels will differ depending on which like I guess grouping you fall into. But I can tell you for sure there's a very sizable amount of people above 50 and above 60 and 70 using all of those platforms. So I think that's my only myth. But if you have a myth, I can try to debunk it if it's something that you want to share.
Right now, I would say I don't have one because I've never tried like to think it, but
Yeah.
still, I usually ask this question to like I asked to Sarah too. Even I asked last time with one of the guest speakers from OMG Canada too. So it is one thing that people I want to have the audience know that according to the professional industry professions who have so much experience in this industry, what they think of this myth that people might not know. So it's a good thing, and I completely agree with that point. Reason being, I look up to my dad, and he's like, oh, you were here yesterday. I saw it on your status. I was like, okay, on Facebook. So that's very interesting, and I would say it's a cool fact that you brought up. Really, it's really interesting that people might not be knowing, and no one have brought it right till now. So I really appreciate that particular thing.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it will always change, right? Like maybe one day Facebook or TikTok's not going to be as big as it is. Net, like the what media is reaching like your end consumer. So if that is on a different format, it's going to happen naturally. Like throughout time, it's going to change. So ultimately, you just go after where people are at actually and consuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree. So, coming to the next question. Okay, so let us assume that the time took back Cindy to 18-year-old to herself. So, what would be that thing that Cindy would want to change at that particular point of view? And yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think I would tell 18-year-old Cindy to take her time. Take your time, try to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, like go try different things and see where it takes you. I think at 18, I entered university, and I think everybody is made a decision. I want to get into this. I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be like in business. I'm going to be a CFA. I don't know. But 4 years is a long time. And in fact, once you get into school, like things can change. Maybe your interests are in one direction, but you realize you actually don't want to do it for a career. And essentially that's where I landed. So definitely in hindsight, I would have told 18-year-old Cindy, go try out more, do more, don't feel the pressures of the people around you, and just follow that. Go with your gut and follow your gut, and it'll all work out. Yeah.
And I completely agree with that actually. Because I'm from Ukraine, and when I came to Canada, I was like, oh my God, people are studying like at any age. You can have people older, like 30 years older than you in your class, and you can have someone who is younger than you, who's 17. Like, how does it work? I was so surprised because in Ukraine, like, you need to go to university right after school, then you need to get your master's, and there is never like an opportunity to go back, never an opportunity to go back to university, just because people will look at you like, oh, what's wrong with this man? He's 40 and he's in university. So
Yeah.
I honestly, I really appreciate like even people in Canada understanding that, and being here and learning like all their lives. And yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I would definitely give this advice to so many people and people in Ukraine. Yeah, so thank you for this, and thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So with our next question, so there's so many things going on right now in the world, like so many things, so many crazy things happened. And honestly, me like being in marketing, sometimes people are asking me like, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? And I'm like, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So what do you think going to be the trends in marketing, in advertising a couple of years? Or maybe is there any trends that you are already like observing for this year?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I don't know if I'm the best person to answer it, but I can tell you some, of like my POV of where we're going. So one thing I think last year, because of COVID and the pandemic, it really shifted things. All of a sudden, one of the key trends, and maybe this was something that you've heard before, but one of the key trends is it really pushed e-com in Canada about 5 years ahead. So we were already behind the States. We still are in terms of like how e-com adoption, but now because of the pandemic, there's way more e-com adoption. Because of that, that's also pushed other companies to improve their e-com system or like their e-com platform. So that's one thing that I think will just continue. That adoption is not going to change. If anything, when things return back to normal, whatever the new normal is, it'll just be probably similar to what's happening now, but maybe just a little bit toned down because people will naturally go back to brick and mortar. So that's one. The other thing that I'm noticing, and maybe this isn't a marketing trend, but I'm noticing that also, again, because of pandemic, and I think this will continue, everyone had to work from home, or a large majority of people had to work from home. How that's going to change retail, how that's going to change city centers, how that's going to change businesses and how they operate, that'll be really fun to see. So I think a lot more maybe things will pop up outside of like the city centers in Toronto. Maybe there will be more businesses popping up in like, Marcones or like surrounding Toronto. or major cities. That's where I'm thinking the next 5 years will be. The other one is something that we were just chatting about earlier on, a podcast. From like a media lens, I think audio is going to be, everyone's been saying it for so long, but I think podcasts, you're already starting to see it turn into something much bigger, but in the next 2, 3, 4 years, it might be just as popular as YouTube, which right now YouTube is massive, and advertisers are definitely on that, but podcasts, huge opportunity. So you guys are definitely in the right place. Yeah, I would say those things. But beyond that, like it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell without a crystal ball. Yeah.
I completely agree with that point, those all points. I just want to point out that first particular point about e-commerce client. It's just that thing. I was having my class at school today, and the professor pointed out, what? North America was the last one to, have these e-commerce things. The Asia was always the first one to adopt
Yeah.
it. And there was another point of thing that he pointed out, and I brought it up also because I have worked back at home, so I know that RSA ads are very common in Google Ads. And he was like, we are some of the big clients use it here in Canada. I was like, it's so common. So he was like, the Asia was always the first in those
Yes.
things to adopt it, and they're way ahead than North America. I was like, okay, so we guys, it's new thing, new strategies, so it's good that I know it, but from a point of view that we are still lacking behind, and this COVID thing has happened, which has given everyone such pain.
Mm.
But still, this thing is very good thing that is happening in terms of media, and I really appreciate that you brought up that point for our audience. That's really important, that people should know that how important is e-commerce in today's era, and it's booming right now because of this COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Ecom will be like it's big now. It will be massive. Like there will be much more demand because smaller businesses will realize like you need to have ecom to survive just as much as you need merchandising in your store if you were to have one. Yeah, it'll just be another thing that you have to consider whenever opening up a business. Yeah.
So, okay, so coming to a last question for the session, so what kind of advice do you want to give to our audience, who want to pursue a similar career to yours? Like, say, he or she want to pursue maybe health sciences, and then want to go, let's say, in strategic relationship marketing, and thereafter some also good some advice from you to all the young marketeers in terms of you being having an agency background and being there at the senior position. So yeah.
And sorry, I will interrupt. I have one bonus question I really want to ask you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, sure, no problem. So I would say my advice is probably pretty generic. Like it doesn't just apply to strategy or like, going from health to strategy. Like those are two very different careers. I definitely understand. So if you are doing a career switch, net, just don't give up. Like, don't give up. Be relentless. Keep at it. Don't take no for an answer. Triage, that's what you did. Like you kept reaching out to me. I couldn't always respond, but it's not because I wanted to turn you down. It was because I didn't, couldn't get around to it. Just don't take no for an answer. Don't take it personally. And then I think the other piece is just be intentional with whatever you're doing, whether it's you're trying to learn, whether you're trying to network, whether you're trying to do something for yourself. Make sure you do the research, make sure you are reading up about it, make sure you're contextualizing. So you reading up on my bio or my LinkedIn page, and then reaching out to me and giving me a little bit of that context, I could tell you've already done a little bit of research. And so I was, of course, excited. Yes, I would love to do it, but it took me 7 months to get back to you, or 6 months to get back to you. So yeah, be intentional, keep at it, don't give up. Honestly, everything is doable. And now with Google and like having the internet at your hands and everyone having a computer, you can learn anything you want. You don't need to go to school. Like, yeah, okay,
That's an awesome.
that's my other thing to tell my 18-year-old self. You don't have to go to school. You can learn it all by yourself. You want to code, you want to learn UX, you want to learn strategy, you want to learn SEO, you can do it all. Like, there are so many resources on the internet. Yeah, you can learn it. Yeah.
I completely agree with that point. I just wanted to add one point of us. You told that particular thing, and I'm really, happy you brought up this point. You don't want to go to school to learn everything, but I think so. In this particular era, there people are thinking that degree is something or certificate is something that one should have in order to enter in that Canadian advertising industry. And you brought up that point. That's really interesting, and I really want to again appreciate. I know that I'm repeating here about that fact that you can learn anything from the internet or following someone. That's really important that people should know about it, because people think that certificates or doing any particular going to any particular platform will make them super duper hit in, let's say, in a week or so. That's a really great point. I admire it and would appreciate it really.
Awesome. I do, like, if you want to go into health and you want to be like a doctor, you probably need you need to go to school. You definitely do. But like, there are certain careers and industries where you don't necessarily have to do that, and maybe in future it'll be like also different in other industries. But tech, for example, like advertising, for example, it could be a little bit harder to get your foot in the door, but just be relentless and somebody will give you a chance. Yeah.
So we debunking the myth today that in order to get into industry, you don't need to have like bachelor degree of marketing e-commerce.
No.
Okay. Is it true though? Is it true that in order to move to like some senior position, they will require that? Because as what we see right now, you like if you're a person, you're hardworking, you're motivated, you're happy to work. For me, it just makes sense that it doesn't really matter like what do you have and how many courses did you take? Is it true or is it just like a myth for all of us?
Yeah. Is this your bonus question?
It's bonus question.
Okay. All right. I will answer it. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there are certain companies that do require if you move into more senior roles. As far as I have seen, I don't think that's true. Like, I do have a bachelor, I do have an undergrad, but it's in a completely different, it's in sciences. It's not even in like the field that I'm currently in. But I think the bachelor degree does tell somebody that, hey, she did 4 years of school. She was able to keep up with her work, and she established some really good practices there that she can bring into her work now and be reliable. That's essentially what I think it tells us, and maybe some transferable skills. But no, I don't believe that you need to have, like, I think in maybe back in the days you needed like CMO, or like not a CMO, you needed to have some sort of master degree, an MBA, in order to become like something much more senior. I don't think that's the case. And the alternative here is, if the company doesn't give you an opportunity, or if you don't feel like you'll be able to get to that position without a bachelor's or master's, then do it yourself. Like, be a self-starter. What you guys are doing, you're doing something on your own, and who knows, eventually you guys could be your own CEOs. Like, who knows, right? So that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure a lot of people wanted to hear that. And thank you for being like honest with us. And we have just a couple of minutes left, but actually it's the question I would say, and from myself and from me as a recent grad, and from me as a being student myself, having a dream to get into strategy. How would you what would you recommend for a person who wants to get in a strategy? Like, where to go, where to start? Why? Because there is no like a career path, like you need to go to social, to strategy, to senior strategy, or like nobody's ever gonna tell you that, and for every company is different. But what would be the best way for a person who wants to get in the strategy? Where to start for this person?
Okay, so you just finished your undergrad. What did you do? Sorry, you just finished a postgrad?
So I actually business administration
Okay.
marketing program
Okay.
at Seneca College, and
Right.
I'm done. I'm working right now as a social media manager at an agency. So yeah, I was planning to move to the strategy, but who knows how?
Yeah. I would start with your people. I think I was watching another one of your like podcasts, and they said it was somebody said, I think you're the person you guys were interviewing was, it's the power in the people. Talk to people around you. Talk to people that you don't know, like me. Now you know me. Talk to other strategists in like LinkedIn and see how they got there. For me, it wasn't a direct path. I'm also not fully in strategy right now, but like if I did want to one day become fully into strategy, I'd talk to the people around me as well. I actually do the same thing that that I'm telling you right now, which is reaching out to my colleagues who might be in strategy and saying, hey, do you think I would be a good strategist? This is what I'm interested in. How can I get better? Or like maybe what you're doing right now, what part of it do you really enjoy doing? Right?
Yeah,
Is there must be some sort of strategy to social media management.
yeah,
So like if you enjoy that, just keep going with that. To get your foot in the door, I would say do an internship, do like, keep applying, look for, because all of the entry level roles are usually like, it doesn't put you in a box.
yeah,
From there, then talk to everyone, reach out to your colleagues at the company that you're at. And especially if you can get into a bigger company, you're going to have a lot of great talent around you. So reach out to those people and just say, hey, I have a lot of interest in strategy, and I've been working really hard, and I've been doing this job now for a year. And then you'll have a serendipitous moment where a door will open.
thank
Sorry,
you
but
so much.
we
Go
are
in
we
the
are
door.
we are running short of time. I'm so sorry
Oh,
about
no
that.
worries.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for doing this. I really appreciate it, and have a great night and evening.
Yeah.
And hope to
Connect
stay
with you.
connected. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye.